Good afternoon. My name is Corey McCarthy. I'm the Chief Equity Officer of the Everett Public Schools. I am joined today by an activist, a leader, an actress, an author, an incredible advocate. I'm going to run out of adjectives as this goes on, but I'm very fortunate to be joined by Sheetal Sheth. Just an incredible influence on, she has an incredible influence in the work that she does. We're going to dive into her support of the Everett Public Schools, as well as support of the ecosystem that she believes is much more deserving of opportunity and access to achievement. Ms. Sheth, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy that you're here as well. I think it's very rare that we do get someone who is from the multiverse.
From the multiverse, from the zeitgeist, from the universe.
From the multiverse. So really quickly, tell us, if you can, tell us about your background and what has brought you to this moment that you're in today.
Well, I consider myself a storyteller. I love telling stories. I think that art through stories is the most, I have seen firsthand, it's the most effective tool for change. I think that art is accessible and for everyone. And so I get excited when you can find something that everyone can take a part of. And it's, I think, a really easy way to change minds and change hearts. And so for me, I tell stories in lots of different ways, whether I'm being an actress or a producer or the books I write. All of those things are different mediums in order to tell stories. And I like to center traditionally marginalized communities and topics, stuff that people don't really think we want to talk about, but we really do want to talk about and we need to talk about, and centering people who haven't been able to tell their own stories. And so that's really what makes me get up in the morning and what makes me excited. And what makes me even more excited is seeing the reception, because as I knew, there has been a hole in this space for a really long time. And not just for people like me and you, but for everyone. If we want the world to move forward and really in the direction that we all say we do, then this is something that we need to be doing as a whole every day as a collective.
Wow. Thank you for that. I actually think it's like magical, right? And it's the level of like gravitational pull that you have, right? That, we just had a conversation, we just met recently, and it was just like when people are passionate about things and they believe that their life's work is connected to their passion that way, these things happen. Like you sort of like see the magic. So we sort of, the magic in your work is definitely glaring at us right now. Where'd you grow up and where'd you end up? Did you go to college, or what was this career path of yours?
Yeah, I know. It's been a bit all over. So I was born in a small town in New Jersey, and then we moved to Pennsylvania when I was 12, which I will just say I don't recommend at that age, but you do it. It's hard to move when you're, in that time of your life. But we did. And then my parents still live in Pennsylvania. I went to New York University for college. I went to Tisch School of the Arts to study acting. I was a drama major and I loved it. And then I moved to California and I lived there for 13 years. And I have been an actress for over 25 years. I started when brown was not cool. So I have seen and experienced lots of things. And then I kind of made my way back to New York just recently, and I have two kids of my own that are 5 and 7, two little girls. And I started writing books because when I was pregnant with my first, I went to bookstores to get children's books, and I'm sitting in the store. I remember the moment so clearly, and I'm looking around and I'm like, these are the same books that I had when I was growing up. I was like, are you kidding me? I literally was like, no, we haven't moved forward at all in the 30 some years. I was so upset. And then of course became obsessed. And I'm like, this can't be right. This can't be right. And sure enough, it was like the same narratives with the same people, with the same stories and the same thing. And I was like, there is no way my kids are growing up without them seeing themselves as the hero of their own stories. This is absolutely absurd.
Mm.
I did a deep dive. I learned that there are more books about animals and dump trucks than there are kids of color. It's still like, it's like point. I think we're at like 9% now where kids of color are at the center of stories, which is insane considering how many books are written about animals and dump trucks and all the same things over and over again.
Mhm.
And so, like I said, I tell stories. I'm an actress, writer, producer. I was like, and I've been working with kids my whole life. I have a very strong background in education. I have a minor in it. Like I've been working with kids since I was 5 years old. So this is something that came very naturally to me, but I wasn't sure how I would like it and what would happen. And I started writing these books, and not only have they found a home, they have done so well that it has echoed everything I'm saying. Like, we need it, we need it, we need it, we need it. And it's funny because if I wasn't an actress, I would be a teacher. I love teachers. They are my heroes. And so now I'm like combining my joys because I get to take my books into schools and read them and talk to the kids and have really amazing conversations. There are so many things that have stayed with me from what these kids are saying. They want these stories. They want to talk about real things with us. They are experiencing it. They are seeing it. It is affecting them. And we are not doing a good enough job to help them through it. And so it is pure joy to be able to bring my books to these kids and spend time with them. I spent all morning at 4 different schools. I am in Everett all week because of the amazing superintendent that you have, Priya.
Shout out to Priya.
Yes, I mean, it is so refreshing as someone who works in this space and meets lots of educators and people in charge and people in power positions who say all the right things, but I don't know what can I do? What can I do? My hands are tied. And then you meet someone like Priya who walks the talk, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm here all week, so I'm super excited to continue my Everett book tour.
Well, we're happy to have you. Obviously, if you're watching and listening, you could hear the passion that you have in your voice. It actually doesn't feel like a job, does it?
No, are you kidding me? Oh my God, not at all. Not even for a second.
Yeah, I know that exact feeling. I think one of the points that you brought up that I think that was incredible about the work you do, it was finding a home. Like, that is the beauty of that particular work with and writing those books is finding a home, identity. Like, that is what I believe is a missing component that no teacher preparation program could do for our children. No community-based organization could do. No administrative preparation program could do, is help children find homes within themselves. And that's the beauty of I believe, of like literacy and reading and access and exposure. So I commend you for that, because it comes with some risk, right? Like, there's no one really wants to hear all the time about kids of color, kids of color, kids of color. They'll say it's very much in theory, but you're practicing it. So I want to give you your props for that as well.
Thank you. You know what? One of the things that I had found when I was in that like deep dive obsessive space of like, really, where are the books? Is I did find some books,
Yeah.
but what I found is that if they were kids of color at the center, they were always around narratives that were religious, cultural, mythology, and a celebration, like a myth, an extraordinary event. And while those books are fine, I was like, do they know that we also like play sports and have pets and have dinner with our parents and go to school and go through all the same things all the other kids do? And for me, the way I like to write in all of my books are very slice of life. The narrative is not about who I am. I don't feel I need to explain my existence or teach you about it. Frankly, I am Indian 24/7. And so for me, it's about tucking that in, so it's just a part of who the character is, but she's living just like all the other kids. And I think it's really important, because if you constantly read books about all of us and they're otherized and exoticized and put into context where you're teaching
outside of the bubble, yeah,
it's not. And I think it's important to say, look at all the things we have in common. Your friend over there was also dealing with something that his friend had. It's a friendship thing, or is also has a pet and doesn't know what to do when he comes home, and et cetera, et cetera. Like those are the things that I think bring us together while we're also celebrating who we are and where we come from. What do we have in common? And I don't think we see that enough, because I think we often are put in these like boxes that are not pushing the needle forward.
Correct. I that's a great point. I think what this level of work, that the importance of another important level of the work you're doing, is really, really helping kids get through the point where they go from being loved and then sort of like they're that moment of being pulled away from justice. You know, everybody loves a little cute kid, no
Mhm.
matter what color they are.
Yeah.
But then there comes a point where they start being pulled away from justice when they start being taken outside of that bubble.
Yeah.
You know? And the importance of having doing the identity work, doing the liberation work around like the your films and your books, it could get them through that moment when they have to make a decision on their own about their own identity. I love the titles of your books,
Mhm.
and I love the titles of your films. I can't think straight, right? Like, tell us about that really quick. I'm diverted right now, but I feel that I can't think straight. Talk to us about that.
So I Can't Think Straight is a movie that's actually based on a real life story of these two women who met and fell in love in London. And one of the women was this British Indian Muslim woman who came from a very traditional background. And she didn't, I mean, she had a feeling, she knew that she was gay, but she didn't ever deal with it and didn't come out until she met this Palestinian woman who also comes from a traditional background, and there was no way she was going to admit that she was gay. And they meet, and there's fireworks, and this is a true story that happened. And so so the director of the film is the character that I play, and my co-star is Lisa Ray, wonderful, amazing actress. And it was really fun. First of all, it's so much pressure to play a real life person, especially the director of the film. But it's a beautiful romantic comedy about two women. And the thing, it's so interesting because it's become a cult classic in the LGBTQ world. I mean, I get messages about that movie every day, no joke, more than most anything else. Like people, and I always wonder, I always ask like people when I meet them, because I see I could be walking around in the street and people will recognize me from that movie. And I always say, what is it about that movie? And they say, because there was a happy ending.
Yes.
And I never thought of it that way until they explained to me that anytime they would see a story about two women or kind of a gay themed story, it would end in tragedy. Or one of them would be an alcoholic, or one of them would be on drugs, or whatever, all this stuff that they put on this community. And they're like, we want to know that we can have a happy ending too.
Yes.
And I think that's so important. And so that movie is really special to me. It has, I mean, like I said, it has become such a loved film, especially for that community. So I'm really, really proud. And it came out, you know, again, a lot of my stuff is like before its time, I think. And it came out in the early 2000s when, you know, we weren't where we are now, talking about what we are in kind of the gay activism space. So when it came out, it was 50%, oh my God, I'm so happy this is out there. And 50%, you should die
Yeah.
emails and things that were coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, things that,
You're
vitriol
trailblazing.
you can imagine.
You're trailblazing though, right? That seems to be a recurring theme, right? Is that sort of trailblazing movement and being unapologetic. We see it, right? You could literally feel it through the screen because you're clearly an agent for like freedom. Like those emails,
Yes.
those emails you got are people saying, "Hey, like I get a happy ending too. I deserve a happy ending, right?" And you know, I think one of the craziest, not craziest, the one of the come to sort of like light moment for me was watching a show once, and you know, somebody, my boy's father, my friend's father looks and says, "Hey, Corey, you're a young black man. You know, guys like you know, if you're gonna, guys like you never get the girl." And I was like, geez, bro, like, and girls like you know, you listen around, girls like you never get the guy. And it was just sort of like a metaphor for like, not, it's not always people almost expecting it not to end well for folks. And it really can, especially when you're doing the freedom work that you're doing. So we're like 15 minutes to 10 minutes in, and you've already showed different tenets of how your work is liberating people. And I think that's incredible. So what role has your culture played in this work?
It's interesting in terms of the movies. So when I started out as an actress, like I said, it was in the 90s, and I graduated NYU. I was stunned at how many people kept telling me I needed to change my name. You need to at least change one of your names. And it happened. And reps, managers, casting directors. And I mean, again, maybe it's my naivete, but I was like, really? Come on. I'm not going to get the job because I didn't change my name. And they were like, change your name. And I didn't change my name. And I didn't work with those people.
Good for you.
But I did lose out on jobs. And I many distinct memories of being in producer and casting director rooms on like my third or fourth callback. And I would be pulled aside and they would say, you're our first choice. We love you for this part. But we're not comfortable with someone of your name. Like we can't promote that. Can you?
Yeah, it's not marketable. Right?
Correct. Would you be open to changing one of them? And I remember I'd leave and I'd call my rep and I'd tell them, and they're like, that's ridiculous. And I didn't get the part. And it happened a few times. And so for me, it's interesting because obviously we know that that's true because lots of people have changed their names. I could have a long list of people who have changed their names. And what makes me sad about that, it's not the people like you see musicians who come up with like a stage name that's cool. That's different. Yeah. When you're changing your name to erase the ethnic part of yourself in order to somehow fit into some box that Hollywood or media is comfortable with, it makes my blood boil. Cut to, I started writing books, and I love what Jason Reynolds, I don't know if you know who Jason Reynolds is, but he's he's amazing. And he always says that he writes for all kids, but he's writing to Black kids. And so I very much feel that way in terms of my writing, is I'm writing for everyone, and the themes and everything that I'm putting out there is obviously for the collective, but I'm also writing specifically in a certain way to my South Asian friends who never had books for these, who never grew up like this, who never had people who look like them, because I know what that's like. And so it's very much in every part of me, but I also feel like I don't need to explain who I am and anything to anybody. And so my directive is really like bringing us into the 21st century of like conversations that we need to be having, and not having the ones that we had so many years ago, because I feel like a lot of the stories are recycled, and I'm so bored of them. I've also been doing this a long time, so I'm just looking for more kind of interesting ways to not have race be the narrative or the forefront of the conversation, but like I said, fold it in, and just, we're not a monolith, we're not all the same. And so as many stories we can have about as many different people that we can have is important. And something I always notice, like when I go to schools and the teachers will show me, like they'll be like, let me show you the books we have. And if there's 10 books, they'll be like, see, that's the book with the Latin kid, and that's the book with the Black kid, and that's the kid with the Indian kid. And I was like, and they're trying, and I appreciate it. And I'm like, I'm going to offer you a different thought. 10 books, they don't have to all be about different kids from different cultures. You could have 4 books with Black kids, because guess what? They're all different. Yes. And all the kids are completely different, and they're having different experiences. And the one book you have about the Indian kid doesn't have to be about Diwali. Like, it can be about something else. It doesn't have to be a holiday book. And so I'm always telling them, like, it's important. 9 of those books could be books with Latin characters, because they're all completely different characters, and so, I mean, I could go on and on, but I always say, in terms of like with my work as an actress, let me name some shows: Sex and the City, Seinfeld, Friends. I could go on and on. All white characters. And they were able to all be main characters in ensemble shows, and no one thought it was a thing. I can't tell you how many times I'll be up for something and they're like, we already have the brown part. We already have the black. And I'm like, when do we get to be able to, could we ever have a Sex in the City with all brown kids? Could we ever have a Friends with all black people? No, because they'd be like, no, that doesn't exist. I'm like, I don't know. I've been ingesting predominantly white media my whole life. And by the way, I related, like, I like these shows. It's not like I don't enjoy them. I'm just saying, like, let us have a chance, you know?
Right. Well, the status quo never gets othered.
Exactly.
Right. It never gets othered. And I think people are uncomfortable hearing that. Like, no matter, I tell people all the time, I could complain, if I was to complain about white folks all the time, my complaints could never change their lives.
Right.
It will never alter their privilege. So when they're willing to accept and embrace that, and then say, hey, listen, I understand and honor your experience, and I respect your lived experience. That's where we could that's the intersection of where we meet. I have a very critical question to ask you, though.
Before you ask me that, I just want to say one of my favorite quotes from Franklin Leonard, because it relates to what you just said, which I think is so important, is he always says, equality feels like oppression if you've been used to privilege. And if you've been the privileged class,
I need you to repeat that.
Equality feels like oppression if you've lived a life of privilege.
Wow.
And I think he's absolutely right.
Yes.
And that's what we're dealing with.
I 100%. 100% agree with you there. So I have a question that's for many of our students who are of Asian descent in our community. And I know they deal with this all the time, whether they're South Asian, what multiple backgrounds of the Asian diaspora.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the question that you don't look Asian?
Me personally, is
Like, how do they navigate? Your answer may help them navigate, because I know many get it, because they're trying to oftentimes folks, society boxes Asian community into how their eyes look.
100%. So part of the problem is, like, Asia's a really big continent. And so they have lumped us all into Asian. They've lumped East Asians and South Asians into the same bucket. And so I think part of the issue is, like, we need to be a little bit more mindful about, like, East Asian and South Asian and our similarities and our differences. And in terms of, like, our physicality, I also get like, well, you don't look Indian. And I'm like, well, what does that mean to you? Because they have a certain idea of what that means. And I'm like, if you go to India, you'll see a lot of people that look like me. But they, again, have a very narrow scope of what they've seen and what they've been presented with. Because once again, a lot of what our opinions are is because of the media that we've consumed. And so without knowing, we have all these thoughts and assumptions and stereotypes kind of baked into how we look at the world. And I'm always like, let's open up our minds a little bit, look around, because we all don't look the same. And there's all different shades. And I know this is obviously a thing in the Black community as well. In the Latin community, again, there's like a whole range of colors. You know, we're not all the same thing or what you imagined us to be. And so I always say, like, travel a little, and you can travel through books, you can travel through movies, you don't have to leave your home.
You could travel through it all, which is like it feels like a journey that we've been on throughout this interview, which sounds like, you know, we might have to like have a series, because like because we know there are layers, right?
Yes.
We're on this journey to get people. We're not on a journey to make people, to codify or like make people feel better about their lack of personal investment in their consciousness around this work. We are doing this work to make sure that we maintain the very culture that was passed on to us from our families, and to honor that, right? And to help people understand that that is a part of who we are and the construct that we have. So I appreciate the candidness that you've shown today to us. Now I have one more question before we go into rapid response. I want to be respectful of your time. Talk to us about what it was like going to read, to what it's like, to the joy you feel when you read to the younger kids.
Oh my God, it really is. It's pure joy. It was so I'll tell you about today, for example. Kids walked in, sat down. I wasn't sure if they knew like what was going on. I was there. And then they saw behind me projected the book. And these two girls were like, "Are you the author?" And I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "That's my favorite book. That's my favorite book. That's my favorite book." Like lost their minds. So sweet. Another boy, so sweet, as he was leaving after we had our kind of session, comes up to me. He's like, "You're like an angel." And, so there's just, I'll tell you another story. I once Zoomed into a pre-K class in Georgia. And, I have different things I do depending on age. But the younger kids, I always ask, do you know what an author is? All the things, because some of them don't. And it's important for them to see and know that an author can look like all of us. And so I said to the 4-year-olds, who here knows does anybody know what an author does? And in unison, these kids go, "Change the world." I know. I was like, I have so many stories like that would make you weep. I'm just like, our kids, my God, they're like, can we just put them in charge of it all? Because we've screwed it up, but they know what they're doing. And so they give me so much joy, and that's why I keep doing what I do, because you have to,
And that's that pre-intersection of that's that pre-intersection that I was talking about. Like they're at that point where they could love everybody and not not judge people based on what they look like and what they're like. How we have to really look at, there's a gap there. And this is why this probably affirms my work and affirms your work as well. And I'm so thankful that we got to do this today. Shout out to the EPS. Shout out to Priya, Kim, and the folks who really invited you to grace us with your presence. But it's time for rapid.
Let's do it.
For the rapid questioning. All right, favorite color?
Indigo.
Why? All right, so kids gonna be like, but Christ, what's indigo?
It's a color, by the way. It's in the rainbow. It is a specific color. That's why I just like that color. It's like the purple blue mix. It's the purple blue mix.
Favorite genre of movie?
So I love, oh God, there's so many for me.
Not rom-coms. You're in a rom-com with Lisa Ray.
I don't know if I love them. I love honestly the variety of movies, but if you can find I think a good movie has mixtures of them all. Like if you can have a dramedy that kind of combines both, but my guilty pleasure is horror movies.
Horror movies. Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my guilty pleasure.
Okay. Sheetal with the win there. All right. If you had to name your life to this point, give it a movie title.
Give it a movie title?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
It's hard. Something along the lines of "I Can Do This."
That's the movie title, though. You see that? Something along the lines of "I Could Do This." That's the name of your movie. That's the name of your movie. What's your favorite binge snack or food?
Oh God, I am a sucker for all junk food. So I've been a vegetarian since I was 14 years old, so I try to eat, I'm pretty healthy, but I have such a junk food addiction. So I can eat a pack of chips like tomorrow. My late night snack is always nachos, chips and salsa, plate of nacho, whatever. Anything in that salty, savory, spicy world is for me.
Okay. Tell us about a time where you felt invincible.
Oh, I had 2 natural births by choice. And
say no more.
Pretty amazing. I'm really proud of myself. I don't know if I did it the first time, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing it again. But then I can't not do the same thing for my other kid.
Oh.
But I did it. I did it
Because the other
twice.
one won't let you forget it.
I did it by choice, and I did it, and I feel pretty amazing that I did.
So 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now, Hollywood does a bio of you. Who's playing you?
Oh God. Well,
That person could be living now. That person could be.
I know. Well, I will
who's playing
say
you right now. Who's playing you right now in your bio?
I will say that what's exciting is that there are so many more South Asian American kids doing this. And it's something that has not been part of our narrative ever. There's certain kind of stereotypical jobs that you see Indians in. And so what I'm excited at is that I hope there's a lot to choose from. And when I started and now there's been like one or two, but I hope they're like, I don't know, who are we going to pick?
Right.
That would be amazing.
That would be so ideal. Good.
Yeah.
I don't feel as bad when I'm like, hey, I know you guys want to find a bald black guy. Like I'm a little different, right? So favorite place to visit on earth?
That I've been to?
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, oh God, it's a tough one. I've been to some pretty amazing places. Places that have stood out, Egypt, I loved. I did a movie in South Africa for a few months, and oh my God, amazing experience because I actually lived there for a few months. I also love Brazil, and I can't not obviously say, like, I went to India my whole life. I go to India all the time. I love it. I can't pick one, but those are some highlights.
Okay, last one. Everybody has a song that plays in their head all the time. What is it? We can all go to YouTube and Spotify.
You know, I really love the song Where Is the Love by the Black Eyed Peas. It's like, if you look at my phone, it says like the most played. That's up there. I don't know. I get emotional every time I hear that song.
Yeah, that little harmonious part when they say "Where's the love?" I can't sing. I don't want to blow up the Zoom.
No, but all of it, the rap,
part. Yes,
all the things they say, it's how I feel. I'm extremely, active, political, all the things, and it's like they packed it all into one song, and it's how I feel every day. Like, where is the like? What are we doing, people?
Right, right. So, I want to thank you. This was incredible. Like I do these all the time, but this is definitely one of the more memorable ones. Not because you're a super duper celebrity, but because of how authentic and organic your whole vibe is. Right, like the vibe of the whole way that you function. It actually really truly it's almost as if you have the same power of a celebrity. So like I think kids feel that energy, and that's important, right? And you also
they all want to hug at the end. I'm like, I want to give everybody such a hug, and I want to tell them. Okay.
And don't forget, the name of your movie is something along the lines of "I Can Do This," right?
Yes,
that's the name of your movie, and it was invented here in Everett, Massachusetts. But I really want to thank you on behalf of our staff, our students. I'm glad you're here all week.
Yes.
I think it's important that we practice now, everybody. Sheetal Sheth.
Sheetal Sheth. Yes.
We got to make sure we pronounce that right. And because, that's the name that her parents gave her. And that's the name we always tell folks, call the name that your parents gave you. And that's a start. That's an entry point. That means you're invested. So we thank you so much. And I got one last question.
Go for it.
It's the bonus.
Okay.
Give some advice to your 16-year-old self. And it could be a quote. It could be.
I think about this a lot, actually, because I have, two girls that I'm raising. And I wish someone had told me to trust myself more and to really get quiet and listen to that voice, trust it. Because you always know. And it's when you get all the other noise in that starts to just mess with you, right? And it's something, especially with my 7-year-old, that I'm really trying to help her. Just how do you navigate the world and things and process? And I'm trying to get her to just figure out how to learn. It's something you have to practice to get quiet and like, right? You hope that you've instilled the things in your children. And so you just have to get past all the noise and listen to that. And I think that will help so much. And I made many bad choices in my life because I listened to the noise.
Wow. That is great advice to anyone who is 16 or 15. And, once again, we thank you. We're gracious. We're grateful. We're honored. Keep us in mind when you do the work. It's very clear that you do with our children. And just know that you have now a whole community behind the work that you do, and we deeply appreciate it. So on behalf of the Everett Public Schools, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Corey.
Hopefully you'll be back soon.
Yes.
And once again, Ms. Sheth will be here this week. So contact us and let us know if you want to check in and see where her whereabouts are.
Thank you, Corey.
Have a good one. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.